The following review has been approved by Lord Carnage and the best of classic game room. Raiding the river was so much fun, we're gonna do it again. This is River Raid 2. If you're an avid fan of the Atari 2600 just like Atari fanboy Mark, then odds are you've enjoyed River Raid. Activision's explosive 1982 classic is one of the best Atari 2600 games ever. How could they possibly try to recreate the magic of River Raid? Who dares make a sequel to this game? Well, apparently, Activision did in 1988. It's River Raid 2. The balls on this game, this is like Rambo 3. It's not better than Rambo, it just has some cool stuff, like the part where he cauterizes his own wound and shoots down helicopters with a bow and arrow. River Raid 2 isn't better than River Raid, it just adds lots of cool new stuff. Like altitude-controlled bombing, shooting down airplanes and helicopters with machine guns or laser beams, I'm not sure which, in-air refueling, and landing on an aircraft carrier. River Raid 2 is a far more complex and challenging game than the first River Raid. It's not quite as approachable. It doesn't have the immediate fun factor, but once you get into it, it's dynamite. And yet another example where Activision proves itself the king of making Atari 2600 games. I wish they still did. The yellow planes are tankers. They will refuel you, so don't shoot them. You need fuel, especially during the river raiding sequences where there's very little fuel. The object is to fly through each mission and land on the aircraft carrier before you're out of gas and crash into the ocean, exploding while quoting Top Gun. You also score some bonus points for fuel remaining, but really you score the big points when bombing aircraft carriers and ground targets. However, that slows you down. Like the first game, you've got to keep one eye on the fuel gauge and the other eye, or eyes depending on how many you have, on the enemies. Since the Atari 2600 controller only has one button, pulling back on your joystick or gamepad while firing will drop bombs, leaving it alone or pushing forwards will shoot lasers or machine guns, or magic arrows, really who can say. This is Atari land. Using your imagination, anything is possible. Except you're still going to explode if you run into something. Keep an eye on your altitude bar, especially during the river sequences. It's easy to forget about that, and you'll go a little faster to save fuel, but then just fly into the green area and explode. It's blinking red if it's alarming. Except by the time you see it, you're usually dead. Also, running out of fuel is bad for you. I love the give and take in River Raid 2. Do you fly fast and just try to get onto the aircraft carrier, or go slow and score as many points as possible? You gotta find a happy medium. And what makes me happy is blowing up aircraft carriers while dodging the air targets. They're not worth many points, and they're unpredictable. When the coast is clear, fly as quickly as possible, avoid the flak, and landing on the aircraft carrier is pretty easy. This isn't Top Gun on the NES. You just center your plane, push down when you're over the aircraft carrier, and easily land. I'm sure that it's just like real life. I think River Raid 2 plays really well, especially with a Sega Genesis gamepad. The controls can be tricky. I found that 9 times out of 10 when I was trying to shoot down an airplane or helicopter, I would pull back to slow down and inadvertently drop a bomb instead of launching magic arrows. Also, you'll want to avoid the flak, and it's just a great game. One of the best on the Atari 2600, I think. Maybe not as good as River Raid, but that's my opinion. Like Rambo 3, many of you may prefer it to the original. Woo! Even though Rambo was also a sequel, but you know what I'm saying. Zone of danger! Danger! Kenny Loggins! It's never a bad time to sing the Kenny Loggins song. River Raid 2. There's 2 difficulty settings. One of them launches homing missiles, but real pilots prefer magic arrows. Kenny Loggins! The best of classic Game Room is on DVD, Blu-ray, and Laser Hypervision album set.